Almighty God, you have blessed us with memory, reason, and skill to help us use it wisely in service of our town government. We ask this in the holy name. Amen. Salute the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll open it up to the public. I ask that you state your name for the record. Speak 5 minutes. If you have any questions, put them in writing. We will answer. Gerald, you want to go first?
Thank you, sir. I'm not really with this group here, I'm going to make that known, but I do support in what they do 100%. To get back, my name is Gerald Mayo, and I live at 14 Tallman Road. I've lived there all my life except 4 years, which I served in the United States Air Force, all during the Korean War. You have done away with a committee which was our outreach program. I don't know all the facts about it. I talked to Councilman Trahan, and he was going to get back to me, and I guess that meeting is still on hold. We had a long talk one day, and that's fine. But with your tight budget, I feel that there's some other places that you could save some money. In fact, I talked to Councilman Tatro about it at the KFC, but we didn't get very far with it because he told me there was a committee that was overseeing it, so I left it go at that. And that's the assessor's office. I have some questions. You can just fill in the numbers. I won't bore you with them. First, like the salary, health insurance, her mileage, supplies, equipment, outside help, county. Let me elaborate on that just a little bit. I built a small addition in the back of my house. The code enforcement officer was there regularly and did his job. One afternoon, my wife went to the door, and there was this lady standing there saying, "I'm from the county real property office, and I'm here to do the assessor's work to measure your building." It took her approximately 10 to 15 minutes. Does that cost us money when she comes down and helps? I want to know the number of parcels that we have. I want to know the costs of assessing commercial projects. In other words, I want to know the whole ball of wax pertaining to the assessor's office, because it's my understanding that the county can do it for less money. And if they can, why aren't we going that route? I have the things written out, so Ralph, you don't have to try to catch it all. I'll give you something. I understand you're under the gun up there when it comes to doing that. There's a clerk's position that everybody's asking me about. Was it reviewed by the county civil service office? You can answer me that. Is there a test that goes with it? Was it published? What account does her salary come from? Is she a general clerk? I understand she's a deputy town clerk. Now, when she does town clerk work, who pays for that? Does the town clerk, who is an elected official, has a budget? Does that come out of his budget? Or do we have to pick it up under the town? That's another question I want to know. And she's the clerk for the code enforcement officer, I understand. So where does that come? Is this a full-time position? And then my last one, I'm trying to hurry up to get under my 5 minutes here, is compensatory time. If I may ask Mr. DeMars, do we have a policy on that, and have you read up on it? compensatory time is comp time. Who is available to get comp time? Usually it's salaried people. They work a couple hours overtime at night. They can come in a couple hours later in the morning or leave a couple hours earlier in the afternoon. I don't think you can accumulate this time, this comp time, and I don't think you can cash it in at the end of the year. How do you figure it? If he or she is salaried, how do you come up with an hourly wage? Was there any paid out last year? And I know union employees receive overtime pay. So that's about what the questions I have, and you can, at your leisure, give me a copy of what you find out and mail it to me, or I'll come up and get it. Have a copy for Ralph for the questions that I asked, and I have a copy for you, sir, if you will put this on the tape, and then there won't be any misunderstanding as to what I asked or didn't ask. Okay? So I've got a copy for you, if you don't mind. And I have a copy for you, Ralph, so you won't have to hurry up on it. So that's about the only questions I have, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you very much for your patience.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'm Dennis Roberts. I live on Smith Street in Rouse's Point. Can you just kind of briefly explain to me the process for the questions and answers? I'm not used to going to a board meeting and having to write down my questions. So can you just explain to me how that works? Because I had some questions, but I don't have paper or pen.
I talked to our lawyer and she advises.
So if I submit a question, I have to do it in writing? And when would I get a response and how?
Just as soon as we can. Peg has said something, we've responded to all. Have we not, Peg?
So if I submit a question to the board, then I would get a letter in the mail or something?
Nope.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
as soon as we can.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
I'm Peggy Rivers, and I live at 50 Tratt Street in Rouse's Point, New York. When the support group for reestablishment of the JCEO Outreach Center first appeared before the members of this board, we were and still are citizens of Rouse's Point and Champlain who voted you into your office. Twice we presented you with petitions, one with 300 signatures and one with over 500 signatures, urging you to reconsider your decision to no longer contract with JCEO. Remembering when we first became aware of this fact and the comments as appeared in the local Plattsburgh Press Republican, one of the main reasons for not continuing the contract was lack of communication from the Joint Council of Economic Opportunity, or the JCEO. We are here again tonight for the third public meeting since that time, and for the third time, this board has chosen not to communicate with concerned citizens from the town of Champlain. We find it most disappointing that you have chosen this route. That is why I, representing this group, visited your office on Friday, February 6th to ask for 15 to 20 minutes of your time so that 3 to 4 individuals selected from this support group could express our concerns to you and explain the broad coverage of services offered by the JCEO Outreach Center. And as stated at that time, we were open to your asking one of your council members to be present with you if you so chose. We were aware that it would not have been possible to have a meeting with more than 3 members of the board present, as this would constitute a public meeting, and we remain a little baffled that you felt the need to consult with a lawyer after we had agreed to meet the following Monday. I've lived in Rouse's Point for 42 years, and I think many of you can agree that there has always been an underlying sense of unrest, competition or rivalry or whatever you want to call it between the villages of Rouse's Point and Champlain. And I believe that many of you will agree that it has not gotten better and that over the last 1 or 2 years, it has actually grown a little stronger. The drive by this support group for reestablishment of the JCEO Outreach Center did not have that barrier. You saw people from Rouse's Point and Champlain working together for one common goal. This was the perfect opportunity for the 5 of you people to serve the people of these 2 communities and grab on to the chance to show how uniting our efforts works. I'm sorry to say, gentlemen, you missed the boat. To quote Martin Luther King, there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, popular, or political, but because it is right. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Thank you.
Anyone else? No one else? We'll go on to the meeting. Approval of the minutes of the meeting. Is there anything deleted or added to it?
At this time, I would like to amend my original resolution and offer the following. The town of Champlain will make an annual contribution of $4,000 to the JCEO, made in 2 equal payments. This money is to be used to pay expenses related to services and programs aided the town residents. The town will offer the board meeting room 1 day a week. And the reason for that 1 day is because that's all the time we have to allocate that 1 room. The contract is to be effective March 1st, the year of 2004, for a period of 1 year. That's it.
And this is that resolution is in the minutes. We need a second on it.
I'll second it.
John Paul? Yes. Clifford?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Joe? Yes. I vote yes. No, we have both our minutes here. Okay, now approval for the minutes of the meeting.
I make a motion we approve the minutes from January 15th.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first thing, I've got something that's not on your agenda. The county is selling 3 pieces of equipment. It's a 1996 Bluebird Model TC 2000 bus. It's up for auction. There's no minimum bid on it. They have a copier. That one has a $400 minimum bid. And then they have another one with a $1,500 bid. If anybody's interested, we've got the information here. Okay, for your information, we've got zoning board minutes. We got 2 months. 3 months. Code enforcement officer is an amendment. John? Yeah, I got 2 of those supposed to be good for now, motion. Yes, sir. Building permits to the back.
Mike?
Mike has one that he wants us to refund $75 on, I believe. For garage. Huh?
35.
35, okay, so $35 for a garage that wasn't built. Guy never went through with this.
I make a motion we give this $35 back.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
89, $39.
If the building was not built or you need a permit.
We need a resolution on the junk deal.
Can you read it? Local law number 2 was passed by junk and vehicle storage law, and an application is required for this local law. And she really gave you a sample, a proposed application to use to apply for the junkyard business. This application has to be approved by the town board before she can use it. So she's looking for approval for that application. You have a copy of it there, and wait.
Motion on this? I'll make the motion. Have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Also, the local law number 2 is the junk and vehicle storage law. Also, at the same time, local law number 3 on adult entertainment was passed. She prepared booklets like this to hand out to people who want a copy of the law, and she proposes that you charge $5 for this booklet, this information. She needs a resolution from the board approving charging $5.
Have a motion on that?
Make a motion for local law number 3.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, here's the letters, guys. Hope you vote to them. You got one from New England Waste Monitoring Report too. Where's that going?
This is the monitoring of the last quarter, which is actually 1 year. They monitor it once a year, done in the month of October. We just got the report that the analysis of the is getting better, clear water, so we're on the right track. They'll probably be monitoring this spring this year.
Notification that Quincy will file with the state.
Local law number 2 is junk in the vehicle storage law, and number 3 was the adult entertainment law. They've been approved by the state, and they're now enforced.
And we have one from Friends of the North Country. So we're going to give people money to take home. New York State Electric and Gas emergency numbers. This is a former report. We had two of our employees there last year. Nothing big. We got one from the Universal Drug Store. If any of our employees want to get drugs out of, I guess it's out of camp. If anybody's interested in that, we all have a copy of that. And then we have the one from, one on Mason Road. That's the one for the top. We have a man on Mason Road that thanks the highway superintendent for the great job he's done this year as manager. Very nice. And 3 letters that we answered. Copy of them from the Flag Rivers. And we have one from Maryville report telling us that Village of Champlain is offering the second floor for over their office complex for JCEO. And the one that we answered, the editor, Plattsburgh Press Republican. And then the one from Gordon Hazen. So that's all I have. Resolutions. You get that resolution.
resolution now. Resolution to prohibit the dumping of sludge anywhere in the town of Champlain. By sludge, we're referring to the output of the septic or the sewer systems in any village or town. We need a resolution to prevent that being dumped.
I have a motion on that. Make a motion. Dumping the abandoned in Champlain. Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. I'm gonna call Meredith and have her write this one out. I've already talked to her. Okay, Alan, I'm gonna bring yours down when you do your report. You can do that. Okay. Building committee. Clifford and Larry.
Yeah, we started to paint the rooms here now. We're gonna fix them up and put a new door, a fire door on the end. And that should be done by the next meeting. That's all I got.
Code department. Mike?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. You did the letter from Mr. Mule for his refund. It was an agricultural building is why he asked for the refund. The next thing I have is on January 23rd, we had a safety meeting here for the AED CPR course. And I'd like to thank Ken LaPlante, Giselle Annette, Tammy Tremblay, Tim Miller, and Sean Gumlaw, who were all very instrumental in the course that we took here. Myself, along with Tim Parsons, we co-chair the safety committee for the town. We organized this because the town does have an AED defibrillator now, which is going to be located at the far end of the hall when we get done the painting and renovations here. And again, I think those people did an excellent job. We had a CPR course. We got some sort of certification out of this, so I think it was well worth it. That's all I have.
Thanks, Mike. Grants committee. John Paul and Larry. Okay. I'm gonna give you guys something tomorrow.
Okay.
From Albany. Okay. Board of Assessment Review, John Paul.
I got a letter to read here from Pat Harris, she got from the state. It was determined at a recent meeting at New York State office maintained in town Champlain assessment roll at 100%. Value total town Champlain assessment value must increase 15 to 20% in 2004. The change is due to increased selling price of real property. The assessor has been busy helping property owner complete file the exemption application for 2004. All sales are going to be recorded for 2004. The outside work of collecting all new construction asset value update will continue as the weather improves. The assessor is available for any question or information.
Highway committee, Jules and John Paul. I have, the only I have, I met with Alan, and he'll give you the report, what's going on with that part of it there. We're going to meet again in a couple of weeks. That's it. Okay. Water and Sewer Committee, John Paul and Larry.
That's the report.
Landfill Committee, Jules, John Paul.
No.
Got nothing to do. Town Clerk.
We're in the process of proposing 3 new local laws. We need to hold a public hearing on each one of them. We need to have a set date for the public hearing. First one is to enacting subdivision regulations for the town of Champlain. Next meeting, we need a motion.
Make a motion that we have it at the next meeting. For a second. Second. have to have a time in there.
We can set the time. Number 2 is adding chapter 98 entitled Planning Board to the town code of the town of Champlain, establishing, forming, and setting forth bylaws for the town of Champlain Planning Board.
Have a motion on that one.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, second? Second. Vote on it, we vote on it last.
Local law number 3 is amending chapter 130 of the zoning of the town code of the town of Champlain, establishing an IC8 zone for adult uses in the town of Champlain.
Motion on this one.
Yeah.
Have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We vote on 3 of them all at once?
Sure.
Okay.
That's all I have for you tonight.
That's it? Highway superintendent, Alan.
Okay, right now I'd like to appoint Deputy Highway Superintendent Brian Bisek. You could stand up, Brian.
That's gonna be your deputy?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. And I got a request for the abandonment of the Lucas Road in Ferris Mills.
Resolution, yeah.
What we need is from him, what I heard you earlier. He has to, the highway superintendent, upon finding that the highway has not been traveled or used for a period of 6 years, the file and cause to be recorded in the town clerk's office, a written description of the highway signed by the superintendent and the town clerk, whereupon the highway was deemed abandoned. So that's the process. And there's a description of it.
All right, you can do that. Then I got 2 letters here from Northeastern Central School requesting some signs, one on 276 and one on Prospect Street. And they're asking the town to have a resolution passed so they can put up signs, and then we can turn it over to the county. From the county, it goes to the state. It's got to start from the bottom and work its way up.
And we're gonna give them permission to put the signs there?
Up 276, we gotta, it's the town, belongs to the town.
Prospect.
Prospect, but 276, we still gotta do it because it's in the township of Champlain. It's gotta start from the town, and then the town turns it over to the county, and the county looks into it. And then the county claims that if there is a hazardous, they do need a sign, then they turn it over to the state, because that's a state road, 276.
Got copies of them from the school, right?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we give Alan permission to follow up on this. I'd like to make a motion, we give Alan the permission to follow up on this and give the school the permission to put signs up there.
Signs go up.
The zoning, speed
Speed zone.
zone.
We have a form that we have to fill out, we need a resolution of the town board along with that form to send to the county.
And the county location.
And the county looks at it and sends it on to the state. I've got the forms.
Okay. So does it have to go, do I have to give those forms to the school to fill out, or do we do it here?
We do it here,
We
but
do
we
it
put a
here.
copy of their letter with it
Yeah.
to support our request.
Okay. And there's one on Prospect Street.
Okay.
Motion on that.
Yeah, yeah, we should have a motion, so we should have a motion.
Have a motion on that? Give you a motion.
Yeah.
You did.
For
Have a
both of
second.
them? For both Prospect Street and
Prospect.
276?
276.
Oh,
Is there a second on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Any more, Alan?
Well, as of right now, I spent an afternoon with Councilman Drew Tran discussing what the upcoming months, the work that's got to be done. And I got one more thing. I have a man that's going to retire, and I'm looking into the town, if they're going to replace him, and how they're going to go about that.
I don't know. Don, you wanna know?
Yeah.
You're not gonna replace him. budget balance, and that's,
We didn't put it-
that was in the budget, when we talked in the
We
budget,
didn't
we're
put it in the
not gonna
budget.
replace them, how many quit?
Well, it's gonna make, to make short-handed.
Well, we gotta start cutting somewhere, because if she raises them taxes another 10-15% next year, somebody's gonna, I don't know how they're gonna handle it.
Wind up
You got people now that are going to the assessment office, the taxes too high.
15 to 20%, not 10, it's 15 to 20% they gotta go up.
20% next year.
Well, she's speaking of the tax assessment, not necessarily the tax rate.
Right.
Okay, the tax rate could go down if the assessments go up, am I correct, Robert?
I haven't seen the tax dollars.
Okay. But supposedly, if we get 20% more assessments, and we get the same budget, or nearly
And the same money, the rate
Can't
is
use the same
down.
money because your tax bill's gonna be higher.
tax bill won't be higher just because the assessments are higher. Tax rate could be lower.
If you lower the tax rate, it will be. Then you break out even again.
Am I right, Rob?
You take the total assessment and the total amount of money got to be raised and divide it out, the higher the assessment, the lower the tax rate.
Yes,
For the same dollar being raised.
yes. So
If you raise the same amount of money, the tax rate will go down if you raise the assessment.
we get a 20% increase in a tax assessment does not mean 20% increase in taxes.
No,
Well, wouldn't it if the taxes stay the same?
Well, depending on how much
If
money
the
you want to
budget-
raise.
If
what's
the
in the
budget
budget.
stayed the same and the tax assessment went up 20%, your tax rate would be lower. If the budget stayed the same, if the assessments were higher. You'd be paying the same amount of taxes. You'd be paying less per thousand, but your assessments would be higher.
Anything else, Alan? That's it. Chip?
I have one thing to be in.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
On January 13th, I went to a press release of Champlain Industrial Park for FedEx, and the Champlain Park was awarded what they call shovel-ready certificate. State Governor Pataki brought this out. We were one of the first ones to get it in the state, which we're lucky. And any park that is ready to go immediately for any manufacturing is eligible to get this. And this park is eligible, the whole park's eligible to get this because of the fact that all of the facilities are there. FedEx built a 60,000 square foot building. They are going to up this up here in the next couple of years, 150. And main knitting facilities, got also a $50,000 building. So, and the way they're doing this here now is that the taxes will come to the town and the state will be paying the taxes. So they won't do the other way that they were doing it before. So this is a win-win deal here with us in Champlain. Luckily that we got that park there to create these facilities.
That's it, Joe?
We never had this on the agenda, that one, closing the cast night road.
Yes.
Item number 7.
Number 7.
Do we have to have a motion on this one?
Same process, he has to make a statement that it's never been used by the public in 6 years, forcing you to want to close.
Alan, did you get a copy of that?
No.
From the water analyst?
Make a resolution.
Somebody have to make a resolution?
You can make a resolution for him to go look at this thing and
Intent to close. Resolution of intent to close or abandon.
Do you have a motion on that?
I make a motion that the highway superintendent looks into this road up there at the end of the dump so that it can be closed for the 3 owners that own that in there. They claim there's a lot of trash that's being dumped out there. The problem they're having now, people are dumping garbage in there. Some of it's not garbage, I mean, the refrigerator's not garbage, but
Do you have a second on the
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll turn it back to the public before we go to the bills. Anyone from the public?
I'd like some clarification on what Mr. Tran said about the amount offered to JCEO, because it's my understanding from correspondence received in reply to a question that I had, that nothing that you made motions on tonight is in granite until your next meeting. So nothing you enact tonight, paying of bills or anything, can be done until the minutes of your next meeting are approved. Right? Because that's the answer I got.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yep.
So you can't pay your bills for another month if you bring any bills forward tonight.
No. He'll get his letter tomorrow.
No, that's not the point. That's not the point. Your reply was, to me, was when I asked you how soon we could have the $4,000 so we could reopen. Your response was, and I quote, "Until the minutes of the January 13 meeting are accepted and/or approved, the offer cannot be officially be submitted," end quote. So anything you conduct tonight cannot be approved or done until your next monthly meeting.
bills were not created tonight, they're being paid tonight.
If you make a motion to pay them, because that's what you did at the last meeting, you moved to grant.
I made that motion at the meeting,
At the
but the
January
bills and the
13
motion were two different
But
things.
you make a
Craig.
motion to pay your bills, right? When you
Because we
present a
reviewed
bill,
those bills.
you present a
They've
bill,
been reviewed.
but
pay
you
'em.
make a motion to pay them.
We should let the lawyer answer. I'll have an answer for you. I'll have the lawyer answer.
Well, you answered it.
Okay, maybe I made a mistake, Peg.
I know, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll check with the lawyer tomorrow and I will let you know.
If we had communicated, and I'm not getting angry or calling you to task, then,
I also made another mistake in that letter. I said it was 5-0, it was 4-0 when we voted on the budget. We only had 4 of us here. That's another mistake that's on that reply.
well, that I would not have known because I was not at the meeting when the budget was approved, and that wasn't what I was questioning. It's just, I think that it baffled me to think that a motion was made, you all approved it, and it was voted on and carried, and I had to wait until tonight to find out if it was accepted, and it was again changed. So now we have to wait until another month?
You'll have his reply tomorrow. You'll have it.
You amended it tonight.
I amended that motion tonight
You
because it was
amended
not
it
ready,
tonight.
worded just right, so I amended the wording.
Yeah, and so actually that cannot go into effect until next month.
No, it's in effect now. We amended it.
No, you said March 1st on your amendment.
Well, if you want to change the date, I had to put a date here, when are you going to start this?
It's when it starts. It's when it starts.
I don't think the date is a big issue.
Contract with them will start March 1st. For a year.
Doesn't mean that you can't start working.
But while we're on the subject, would somebody on the board check with Moore's and find out how come Moore's doesn't have a JCO, has never had one? And somebody check with Chazy and find out why they only have it 2 days a week and it works well for them. Anyone want to do that?
I know Moore's don't want it at all, I know that. We've told them that for quite a while.
Chazy operates on 2 days a week.
You got time, Larry? I'll go along with you. If you want to go to Moore's and Chazy.
no problem with
I've
that.
been to boards already, I know that.
Larry and I have checked on you today.
When I was coordinator, I'm Sandra Kelly. When I was coordinator for 10.5 years, I discussed that about Moore's not having a center with Supervisor Leo Letourneau at the time. And I brought it to his attention how many people from Moore's were coming in to the center, from Shazy also. But the number from Moore's, and we approached Jack Dragoon at the time and asked him if they would give us some kind of money back to help out, that they kick in so much money also because we were taking care of their people. And they continued to say that they didn't have any poor up in Moore's. Well, you can go see the school nurse, Linda Mitchell, who was there before, and I'm sure if you talk to anybody at the school now, they will tell you how many poor families or needy families, I should say, in Moore's. But they're not looking at that. They're turning their backs to it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Dennis Roberts, Smith Street, and Rouse's Point. First of all, I want to say that I do have a lot of respect for anybody who serves the public. My hat's off to anybody who serves the public. It's got to be a tough job. But on the flip side of that, I just want to say that I am deeply saddened and disappointed with this town board's lack of open communication, and I re-emphasize the word open communication with this group of people on this subject of this JCEO. I always thought that if you had an issue with your town or your village, you go to the board, you ask the question, you state your statement, and you usually get a response. If not a response that month, that board usually would give a response the following meeting, but it never had to be in writing. And I understand you went to your attorney. I don't understand why, because I think this is the forum that it should be.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, everything has been said. Hazen has taken and put it in the paper backwards.
And this is the place to rectify it, right here.
No.
You have Mr. Castine right there, who can just pop in the tape, put it on television, and there's no argument. I just think it's crazy to have to go through letters and letters and letters. This group has been very vocal, and the board has been very silent. I'm sure come November, this group is going to be very vocal again, and we'll see if the board is silent.
Anyone else?
Donna Jerome, Champlain, New York. On your agenda, you had two letters, item number 11 and number 12. One was a letter from the Press Republican from Jim Danko, and the other was a letter from the JCEO, to which you didn't respond. Could you please read those letters so that everyone here could?
You want
hear
a
them?
copy of them? I'll give you a copy.
Yes, please. One in a record.
Do you have copies for all of us?
Make it
So
work.
in the record.
Yeah, it'd be good. Can you read them?
You want to know.
On the ball.
You want to answer that. You replied to all of them.
This is Mr. James Danko, Editor-in-Chief. We replied to his request for information. This is his response to letter Q. He said, "Thank you for your prompt reply to January 21st request for public documents. However, one request went unanswered. That pertaining to the minutes and copy of the legal advertisement for town meeting held to formulate responses to Peggy Rivers' questions. Due posed December 9th, 2003. We ask for the documents at this time." What are the responses? Let's take a letter.
I don't either.
Yeah. Same thing, that's his request. There's no response.
I don't have a copy. I'll send you a copy tomorrow, Donna.
Thank you, Bruce.
What other one do you want?
The letter from Gordon Hazel.
You have that one?
You can have this
Is
one.
this the one he's looking for, the person over there?
No, that's, of course, that's the request,
That's a request.
not the
Or
response.
the second one is,
The response is-
Would you read that one too, Al?
This one? Sure. I'll read the whole thing.
Go ahead.
Mr. Bruce Wallace, Supervisor. Dear Bruce, Robert Seashore, when he was chairman of the Department of Psychology at Northwestern University, pointed out that successful people are not people without problems. They are simply people who have learned to solve their problems. There you have it, living successfully, getting the things we want from life, is a matter of solving the problems that stand between where we are now and the point we wish to reach. I have an idea I would like to share with you that could be a solution to our problem. At the very minimum, this approach would reduce the friction, resume critical service, and give us time to develop a permanent solution. This is my idea. Mr. Albert Laporte, Mayor of the Village of Champlain, has offered space free of charge to JCEO. The contract between the town of Champlain and JCEO for 2004 was $15,233, or $1,269 per month. Let's revise the agreement for 6 months at a cost of $7,614. That's $1,269 per month for 6 months. Reopen the outreach center and find a permanent solution as we move forward. For more than 20 years, JCEO and the town of Champlain have had an excellent relationship, providing critical services to the working poor in your community. Let us work together and begin to reconstruct that relationship. Looking forward to hearing from you. I remain, Gordon Hazel.
Thank you.
Is that what you wanted?
Yes, thanks.
Anyone else?
Linda Robert from Champlain. In addition to what Mr. Roberts was saying, I also have a question about the questions at the meetings. Is this setting a precedent from now on that any questions at any board meeting have to be in writing, or is that this just prejudice against the JCEO?
It's not against the JCO or anybody. Every time I answer something, it's turned around, Hazen puts it in the paper. I'm not doing that. I talked to the lawyer, this is what she advised me to do.
I feel I need to respond to those comments because I think it's important for you to recognize the fact that Gordon Hazel, as the executive director of JCO, does not control the editorial policy of the Press Republic. Please, let me
Go ahead.
Okay? He does not have control over what they put in. And if he was presenting anything to the Press Republican, that the Press Republican did not believe or that he did not have in writing, they would not put it in the paper. I don't believe it's accurate to make an accusation against Gordon that he is putting false information into the Press Republican. He does not control the paper and he does not put what's in the paper. They control their own editorial policy and they control what's in the paper, not Gordon.
Where did they get the information on me that they put in the paper?
He didn't put any of that information.
It was in
Yes,
the
he
paper. He put it in the
He put the
paper.
editorial in, he
Years,
talked,
I
sat down and
remember
talked with the editor.
He
Who
put
put
it on
that
the
in?
years. And where would he get that from except from JCO? There was nobody else involved.
The editor
Nobody.
told me that she sat down and talked with him.
That's probably correct. Okay, but to make the assumption that he's answering questions and that he's the one who's writing those articles for the paper.
No,
and
but
that
he
he's
tells
turning
them, he tells them, and they write it in there.
Well, you know, that same thing has happened both ways, you know, Mr. Wallen. And to make that assumption and to make that accusation is totally unfair. That's my only point.
He had no right to do that.
There have certainly been things from that standpoint, Mr. Wallet, from the standpoint that
Probably is.
when the paper was told that JCO was unwilling to give information to the town of Champlain, when in fact I know, I myself wrote a letter to the town of Champlain during the past year, offered to come to the meetings and offered any information that the town wanted. And that one I wrote myself. So, I mean, obviously, that comment that was put in the paper that did not come from JCO was also untrue. It was also untrue.
Anyone
I
else?
just wanted to say, that was why we wanted the meeting with you, so we could avoid this. Actually, you created it by not wanting to communicate with us. We were not asking for a private meeting with the board. We had selected 3 or 4 people. And if you remember correctly, I said, we are open to your asking one of your people. You said, I think you said something like, I don't like doing that, I might say something I get held to. And I said, we're not going to be coming to hold you to anything. You said, it might take me a day or so to line someone up to be here with me. And then you started talking about Mr. Hazel and if he had just communicated with you. And I said, please, we can't change what has happened, but let's move forward with this. It's too important to let it just slip by. And I went home with such a good feeling. I said, we're going to get together. We're going to talk. We're going to communicate. And then the next day there was a message on my phone that you had called your lawyer, and that really baffled you. You felt necessary to call a lawyer to see whether you could talk with us. We have not been rowdy. We have not gotten out of hand. We've tried to stay perfectly calm talking with you, asking for 15 to 20 minutes of your time. That wasn't a lot.
Anyone else?
Yes, if, assuming that everything goes through and we begin on March 1st, where and when shall we begin delivering food to be distributed by the JCEO? Should that come to this room, to the offices here? How is that going to be handled? I'd like to be able to take that back to the session of my church.
We have no room for food here.
Uh,
What about one of the churches taking it?
But that's one of the things that the JCEO does and has done in this community right square along. I didn't hear that a limited variety of the JCEO services were to be done here. I understood that it was everything, but on a one-day basis. The food shelf is not included? But you didn't say that.
Are they going to come here, or are they going to go to the village of Champlain?
You all said here. I was listening when you made the amendment. It included this room one day a week.
Yeah, but now we don't have the space, and seeing the village wants to give us the building free, we can go there.
But that's not what you just did in this meeting. I was
We didn't say we
listening.
were gonna have the food here. We
You
were just
said
sent for to
JCEO
help 'em with their-
services
with their-
one day a week, and that's one of the services. Folks,
Want me to read the resolution?
yes, please do.
Town of Champlain will make an annual contribution of $4,000 to JCEO made in 2 equal payments. This money is to be used to pay for expenses relating to services and programs aiding the town residents. The town will offer the board meeting room 1 day a week for this purpose.
That includes the food shelf, does it not?
As long as you take the food out at 4 o'clock when you leave. You get the room for 1 day, you can't leave stuff here a week old. Other people
I
use
will
this room,
deliver
but-
this question to you in writing and hope that there's a better answer.
Yeah,
in
the
the
government continue all the time, of course, the AARP has meetings here. We have all kinds of meetings in this room.
But you said JCEO services and programs. You read it again,
1 day.
and
One day a month.
one day a week.
One day a week.
one of the
It was
important
intended
services.
to use the room for the people that wanted to have services because they wanted to talk to the JCO about private business. They either needed rides or whatever they needed. That's why we offered the room, not for a warehouse. We don't have the room for it.
Then maybe we need to continue to think about this, because the food shelf is one of the ways that many of us participate in the work of the JCEO and one of the many, many important services they offer. And I think you maybe need to rethink your amendment to make clear what it is you want to have offered in this space.
Well, if the churches like to help these people survive, why is it all one-sided? Why don't the church hand out the food?
The church does do it.
We do, but it works a whole lot better
Well,
from
we
a
don't- how many
single
places do we
source.
need that food?
You know what I'm getting from this? Obviously, the council person that looked into this didn't really look into it before you made the decision to do away with it. Because JCEO offers a variety of services, and they do need space. And they are a good service, and it's needed. Why now are you saying they can only have the people in here that want to talk? We're here to talk.
Anyone else?
Could you amend it? Do they have to be, can we approach Albert and say, can we go there? Or are you restricting them to come here? And that's what the amendment did.
Now
We don't have to go here all we don't want.
Not just restrict them coming here. You go to Champlain.
Yeah.
They can use Champlain's office if they want. Your amendment's not restricting them to come here.
No?
The last sentence of the amendment states that the room will be offered.
We offer.
We
offered a room.
We didn't say they had to use it.
We offered the room to use if you want to use it because of people coming in to make arrangements for other than food.
If they left food here if they left food here all month, you'd be using the room more than one day. And people would be coming after the food because it was here. Who would be handing it out?
You do have another option, gentlemen. Mr. Hazel's letter, $3,000 more. You could get
We
rid of
don't have the
us.
money back.
We could go to the village place.
I'm sorry, I just understood that if you were having the JCEO here, that included all the programs and services. That's the way it sounded to me from what you said. And so what I really wanted to know, because one of the ways that we interact most strongly with the JCEO is where we could bring our food, which we've been keeping for the time when we could again distribute it through the JCEO.
Where is it being distributed out of now?
Nowhere. It is sitting, waiting, so that it can go again. It is available for food pantries that have an urgent need, and they are aware that it's there, but it's also the expectation of my congregation that that food will be distributed through the JCEO food bank, as it has been in the past.
Here.
Excuse me, is the board going to consider the town of Champlain offer? Or do I need to put this in writing, or?
Village of Champlain?
Yeah, the village, sorry. Have you gentlemen contemplated that notion?
Using the village is not our offer.
Zero.
They offered it to JCO, they didn't offer it to us. So the JCO,
JCO if they want to go there. We're giving them $4,000. Either come here one day a week or go down there. Whatever they want, it's their choice.
But if they went there, you're not restricting them to one day a week.
Whatever they want to do.
whatever they want to do.
Whatever
We're
schedule
giving
they
them
can work out.
$4,000. That's it.
You're giving them in two increments. You're giving them 2,000 and 2,000. You're not allowing the 4,000 all at once.
That's the way we did with their other contract. Take it twice a year, right?
That's correct.
Anyone else?
I've got a couple of quick questions. Calvin Castine, Champlain. As far as the churches go, one of the complaints I heard about dropping this was duplication of services. If you have each of the churches handing it out, that's not going to solve your duplication of services problem. It's going to aggravate it. Before I forget, on those local laws that you moved to the floor to have published for the next meeting, you never voted on them. So if somebody comes back in the future, you're going to be, you never voted on them. Oh, you did? No, you didn't.
We voted on the three all at once.
No, you didn't. He asked, should you? And you said yes, you should, and then you went on.
Voted on the third one.
Yeah.
I believe we did on the third one.
I can show you the tape. You didn't, because I was paying attention. And you didn't.
You want to vote on it?
It's
Make a motion.
just that there are laws, and somebody can come back on you.
I know we did.
Well,
Could I get a copy of the tape?
Sure.
Reimburse you for it.
sure.
Thank you.
No, you decided to do them all at once, then you never voted, never called for a vote.
I make a motion.
Yeah. Anyway, if you're happy, I'm happy, but,
Go back and vote on it, make a motion.
You're making a motion here?
Red made it
Jules made, on the first one, Jules made the motion, Red seconded it.
All in favor?
Second one, Red made, and John Paul seconded it.
All in favor?
Third one, John Paul. Motion, Jules second.
All in favor?
okay, just the laws, like the strip joints and stuff, well, if all of a sudden somebody comes in and they start looking into this, I want to make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed. And Dinko's letter just made me wonder. I got the impression that from that letter that he's saying that the board meets to answer these questions. That's not the case. So it's not that there's a special meeting to answer these letters.
Those are the letters I answered, put in their box, they look at them. If they have anything to add,
Yeah.
change.
Yeah, because it sounded like he was saying, when was a special meeting called, where was the notification on it, and I just wasn't under the assumption that there was a special meeting to answer those letters.
We have to publicize it.
And I was also under the impression that you can clarify a motion from the previous meeting, but if you amend it, it becomes part of this meeting and not the previous meeting, right? So the amendment that Jules put in as part of tonight's meeting is not rewriting the meeting of January. Okay. You're shaking no and agreeing with me. Okay.
Resolutions are written and they can be written.
Yeah, it can be-
I might have written them wrong. That's why they.
Yeah,
have
if it
to
can be
make
clarified,
sure
but
that
he was,
at the next meeting, you have to vote on it.
yeah,
Well, I've never had this happen, so I'm not really sure, and I said nothing before, but bills is something different. The bills are all there, they all have a list of them, and they
yeah, I'm
vote
not
on
asking
them.
about bills.
No, but
no.
I'm just saying that,
Yeah.
it's on the same thing. Bills is not a resolution, it can be changed or misinterpreted. They all have a list of the bills, and I present them, and they vote on them to approve them, or not approve them. Or they can pull any out that they want,
Right,
or once they vote on them, I think they're legal to pay.
yeah, yeah. But on the minutes,
Minutes
the
are
difference between a clarification
Yes.
and an amendment.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can clarify and have it be the part of the January minutes, but if you're amending it, it's part of tonight's minutes. Okay.
Anyone else?
I'd like to make a comment to Calvin. I'm sorry, taking aside from your meeting. But as far as the duplication of services regarding the food, Calvin, Anybody who goes to the JCEO as a client is income eligible for only 8 servings of food, 3-day emergency based on the size of their family. So it's not like they can go anytime at will.
Right.
And it's from October to October. So sometimes maybe they might go to another location to get help, because 8 times doesn't always take their families through the year. Okay?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that, one of the arguments was duplication, but if you take JCO out of it, you're gonna have more duplication, not less.
This is true, and it isn't commonly known, that JCEO just doesn't randomly hand food out at will.
Yeah.
It's a misconception. Thank you. It's a good help.
Anyone else?
Teresa Smith from Champlain. You voted on 4,000 this year. Does that mean that it's got to be voted on every year? Or if we can get the JCO off and running again, could it be raised in another year in your budget? I hate to see this JCO stop. It's not only for the poor. We have to think of the aged, the elderly. Many of them, we're lucky. We drive, we can answer our questions, we can read our mail, try and work a computer. But when you think of the last generation or the older ones, they're the ones that are in the need also. The rides, I've already had many people comment, it's harder to get rides now to go to the doctors. Some of the seniors who used to drive that don't drive anymore. Your mail is getting more complicated on a daily basis. Questions that have to be asked. These are the things that JCO does for the people. We're lucky. We're not using them. But you lose a spouse, you get older, you do need, your children are not always there when you need them. They're too busy to take you where you have to go. And I know this. And there's always someone that can use your help. And when they could turn to JCO, it seemed like it was their best friend. And if we can get it off the ground, is there a possibility that this would have to be voted on again for another year?
Revisit it next budget time, every budget.
So it could be increased in the future if we work hard enough with fundraisers or something to get it going this year? That's all I want to know. Thank you.
This year we didn't put it in the budget, just don't have the money for it this year.
But there's a possibility in the future that we could go.
Anyone else?
Ernie Robert Champlain. So you're saying this year if you put $4,000 in the budget, whereas it hadn't been planned before. So next year we're automatically going to have $4,000 in the budget planned for JCO.
We'll revisit it next year. We don't have nothing planned for next year, how much is gonna be in the budget.
But we're still going to have the needy people next year. And the taxpayers still send their money to the town of Champlain.
Well, it has to be revised in October.
We do budget time.
Or budget done.
Budget's November.
Yeah, but each year we're going to have to start coming back for 2, 3, 4, 5 months in a row, begging for help. Why not say, okay, we have so much in the budget for JCO, let's give it to them. You don't have the rent paid that you were paying. You don't have the utilities, the water, anything. So why not help out the JCO the way that the town of Champlain should? We talk about Moores, they don't want it. Moores comes to Champlain, so naturally they're going to say they don't need it there. If Shazy only does it twice a week, some other people are coming to Champlain.
And then we're paying for other towns. Is that what you're
So
telling
then
me?
let's put it for Champlain,
Pardon?
but help out the people of Champlain. And Ross's point, that's part of the town of Champlain.
Are you telling me the other towns come? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's what I'm assuming it
Okay.
has been said already, that people from Moores come to Champlain.
Anyone else?
I could clarify that. JCO policy is that for all the community outreach centers, that they service individuals and the residents of the town that supports that center and has that contract. For those towns that we do not have outreach centers, they are serviced through the Plattsburgh office. I will also indicate to you that for those towns, we get numerous calls of people who have problems coming in, and some of those people unfortunately have not been able to receive service. It is not JCO's practice to have one town funding an outreach center and to use that center for residents from the other towns.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to post out bills. A review. And need a motion on the... I make a motion that we pay the post audit bills. Second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, go monthly bills.
Make a motion to pay the monthly bill.
Have a second. Second. All in favor? Aye. Have a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.